Our next topic will explore innovations as well, particularly how IL Classroom and Filestack are changing the LMS industry. Presenting it is the VP of Product, Engineering, and Design at Imagine Learning, Ian Lutinsky.
All right, great. Well, welcome to Scaling on the Shoulder of Partners. This is a talk that is inspired by a few phrases, one being it takes a village, and the other being standing on the shoulders of giants. Sir Isaac Newton, as you may know, is a historical figure who was infamous for discovering a lot of things about our physical world, and he attributed a lot of his success to those who had discoveries before him, and basically said that he would not have been able to achieve what he was able to achieve because of without the efforts of those who made discoveries before him. And what I'm here to talk about today is how the LearnZillion, now Imagine Learning Classroom software product was successful in no small part because of standing on the shoulders of partners who were giants like Filestack in its journey from fledgling startup to successful product company. So we host math products, we host English products. Imagine Learning Classroom is basically a learning management system, content management system, assessment system, and it's been developed over the last 12 years now. And so I serve as the VP of Product Engineering and Design for that, and previously served as the CTO at LearnZillion before we were acquired by Imagine Learning. And so like any good marketing material, the screenshots that you're seeing in here are already a bit dated and don't reflect the latest version of our product. So I'll show you some of that in a bit as I talk through what our product is and how it works with Filestack. So we have a lesson player. Now, right now, this actually shows content about our own site, which I'm going to walk you through to show you how we integrate with Filestack. But if you can imagine this lesson player being something that teachers or students might use in a K-12 environment to learn math, English, science, history, and other subjects. And the way we integrate with Filestack is in our lesson authoring experience. You can add slides or cards, to different lessons for students. It includes things like documents, where we integrate with the Filestack file picker in order for people to upload static Office files. And we use, as you can see, the Filestack integration with Google Drive. People can upload directly from the Google workspaces. We also have the ability for people to edit slides in their browser, where we also let folks pick assets from their desktops or Google Drive to insert images, as well as audio files. We can have audio overlay for students to listen to educators speaking about the content that they're looking at. And in addition to just uploading MP3 or other types of audio files, you can also record right in the browser through Filestack. And this is a very popular thing for educators. It was really helpful during the pandemic when teachers needed to teach at a distance, and they wanted to add their own personal narration to the curriculum content that we provide. So hopefully that gives you a rough overview of the sort of learning management product that we have and offer educators today. All right, so when you think about partnering with vendors and how to do that successfully, it needs to start with the why. This is Simon Sinek with his book, Start With Why. It's a very good book about really just anchoring yourself in the bigger picture and understanding why you're pursuing something without just doing that blindly. And so whenever you are thinking about doing any sort of technology development or product development in your software, you need to always start with, why are we adding this, right? And so usually that goes all the way back to, who are the users, what are they trying to achieve, using frameworks like jobs to be done, or lean startup, or what customers want, maybe even pragmatic marketing. And to just ask yourselves, okay, where does this fit in the day-to-day lives of our users, and how does this fit strategically in our business, right? Is this something that is absolutely core to our value proposition to the world, or is this not? The reality is, time is a finite resource, and especially if you're a startup, you have a limited number of chess moves that you can make until this game is over, or until you have to raise your next round of capital. Usually that's somewhere around 18 months, which is not a lot of time, when you're trying to build a product. And unfortunately, a lot of folks, when they are building software, think about it from an accounting perspective. How much cash is this going to cost us to do X, Y, or Z? But the reality is, really we should be thinking about software development from an economic perspective, right? What is the opportunity cost if we spend not just money, but time working on this aspect of our product versus some other aspect of our product? And how does that opportunity cost relate to the why, about why we're building a particular part of our software? Because you want to prioritize, right, the things that are going to help you strategically advance your product in the market and make it more useful, and probably partner up with vendors or software partners for the things that are still necessary, but maybe not core to the differentiating factors of your product. And from an economic perspective, you really need to think about the total cost of ownership of anything that you're working on or choosing to integrate with, right? You need to think about, how much time is this going to take for us to build from scratch if we were to do it ourselves, to what if we could just use it out of the box from someone else, to release, what's it going to cost to actually release this thing to the wild and have it be a stable stable solution that people can utilize. And then what's the long-term maintenance cost of this component in our software? If we were to build it ourselves, we can expect that there's going to be a regular rate of bug reports and things that we're going to have to address, versus if we use a partner, there may be still some bugs here and there, but you can probably make some different assumptions around the cost of that maintenance, because the third party is making the fixes, and because this is their sole business, they are likely to get through the bugs faster, and obviously in a way that's not going to impede your ability to make improvements to your software at the same time. So you really have to make these strategic choices around whether you're going to build yourself or choose a partner. And just to expand a little bit on this core strength, right? As you go back to the why, you really have to think about, what's the strategic importance of us managing something directly? I think a very extreme example might be, when it comes to platform as a service through something like Amazon, do we really want to be in the business of managing hardware, right? Do we really want to have a data center or racks of servers, right? Nowadays, it's kind of a silly question, but the same thing is now true for a lot of software too, right? Is, for example, asset management around images, videos, documents, previewers, in-app, HTML5 native audio recorders, are those things that are really core to our strength as a product business? Is it something that we really need to own ourselves? Right? Like if you were running something like a DALL-E or a Midjourney, right? These generative AI models that are used to turn text into images, you're probably going to need to manage all of a lot of the asset generation and storage and things like that, because it's really core to the product that you're working on. But if you're in a situation like us, when it comes to images and assets, it's critical, for us to have the ability to receive those, upload them, distribute them to a CDN, get them to end users. But is it really core for us to be in the business of converting PDFs to HTML5 viewable versions? Probably not. So really think about this this question around, is this core, to our product in a way that we have to be managing this, or is it something that we can outsource essentially to another group because it's more of a commodity service, or it's something that we can get by, using a partner. And I think obviously the one kind of caveat to all of this is you really do need to size up who your potential vendors are, and really ask, can this product's support team, really handle our particular needs, whether that's not just the features that are there, but the stability, the scale, and sometimes support. One thing that is a particular warning to product engineering teams is something called not invented here syndrome. And not invented here, or NIH, is defined as the tendency for people and organizations to avoid things that they did not create themselves. And can be particularly prevalent among engineers who, first of all, me being an engineer by background, we love building things. We love building cool things. We love building scalable things. We love solving those problems. And so it can bias us towards wanting to build things in-house rather than thinking economically and looking outside the walls of our business to see if there is a partner who can do this in a way that is more economical for us, so that we can spend our time on our core product. So it's just a bias to be aware of and to try to avoid. So a little bit more about our story. So Imagine Learning Classroom was previously called LearnZillion. This was before we were acquired by Imagine Learning in 2019. And we had similar concepts, right? We were an education company serving the K-12 market, but we were mostly hosting videos and static assets. And we were managing it ourselves. There really weren't a whole lot of options at the time for third parties, right? We were on AWS though, using EC2 for our servers. We were storing our assets in S3. Believe it or not, we weren't using a CDN at the time. We were letting people download or view assets directly from S3. And we had considered CloudFront, but just hadn't received enough complaints from users to bite that bullet. And we asked ourselves the why at one point. Why are we managing this ourselves? Why do we have code that is managing the uploads and throttling things and managing S3 buckets ourselves? And is this the right non-CDN solution for our users? I just started to size up the cost of doing this long term, and also with a CDN involved, and just realized this is meaningful work. It's critical to what we do, and yet there are things we need to do around just learning management and integrating with districts across the country that really should take priority, because it's niche and it's particular for us. So, is there a way for us to outsource this? And us asking that question, along with one of our contractors, led us to Filestack and some other similar choices. We use other products like a service called Clever, which we use for integrating rosters and SSO within districts. Clever is the top player in that space. We use SendGrid for transactional emails, which many of you have probably heard of, and many more partners. And and just ended up building our business and our product in a time in which a lot of platform as a service and software as a service products were emerging. It was really the opportune time because we were able to economically decide on several partners that meant we could focus our engineering talent and contractors on the things that were critical to our particular education product, while effectively outsourcing or entrusting things, not just like hosting, but asset management and delivery to third parties, which really allowed us to make the most of our time in the different seasons that we had to pivot as a startup. And we had a very classic startup story, right? Most startups, when they cross the if they cross the finish line into success, often are at a different place than where they started in terms of what their product is. There's a famous book called Founders by Jessica Livingston. She is one of the co-founders of Y Combinator, and she talks about this phenomenon. And if you read the stories, she has something like 50 interviews of founders in this book, and only 2 are actually doing in the end the product that they started off doing. The others pivoted at some point. And one of the more classic examples in all of startup history is a game called Glitch. Many of you maybe not have even heard of Glitch before, but Glitch was a massively multiplayer online game, browser-based, that started development many years ago, and it really wasn't gaining a whole lot of traction in terms of its development and people enjoying it. But there was like a community board, and there was like a photo sharing service in the midst of this that they also built for their community to share things like screenshots. And the founder realized, oh wow, this like photo sharing thing is much more popular even than our game. We should pivot. So they did a classic pivot to into Flickr, which you may have heard of. Flickr was the first file sharing service out there. Eventually was acquired by Yahoo. Pivoted again later in terms of his career, and decided, I'm going to build Glitch again. I've made all this money off Flickr. I'm going to go build Glitch again. Spent a few years on that. Again, not a whole lot of success with the game, but there was an internal chat service that they had built for staff to be able to collaborate remotely, and found that it was super helpful, and said, hey, the game's not really successful. This internal chat is fantastic. Let's release this. And that became Slack. And our story was that we went through our own pivots, right? We went through 2 or 3 different pivots over a 9-year period. And we made a swing from being a video first, static document second, LMS and curriculum provider, to one that was native, to the browser. Our slides and wikis and lessons are all, native to the browser. We do host videos. We do host documents as, really secondary or tertiary resources. But our primary business is offering core curriculum that is modern and native to the browser and works on all sorts of browsers and is responsive, et cetera, et cetera. And we would not have been successful as a startup if we weren't able to make a few hard pivots over the years. And had one of the founders tell me that we would not have been successful as a startup if our software had not been able to make those pivots. And I attribute a large part of that success to the fact that we leveraged multiple partners like Filestack to focus our energies on things like those pivots, right? To be able to aim our resources and our people at the things that were core to us finding our market and being able to hit product market fit as quickly as possible, and not getting distracted by things that we could outsource to others. So when you're trying to build something that's innovative, something quickly, something that's going to be on target, you really want to focus, those few rounds that you have on the things that matter. And I'll talk a little bit here about just scaling together. When you pick a partner and you start using their software as a service product or platform as a service product, you immediately benefit from whatever they've already built. And in our case, we benefited immediately and immensely from Filestack's uploaders, its HTML5 previewers, its CDN, right? All of those things came out of the box. And I think anyone would admit, no matter which partner you pick, it's never a perfect fit, right? There are always needs for features or capabilities that you have that are not yet available. And sometimes there are bugs you have to report and get addressed. And that's okay, very natural. No software is perfect, no service is perfect. Really what it boils down to is not just how competent and capable is this product and this team, but also how responsive, will they be to us? And we found, having partnered with several, well over a dozen, that if you particularly join as a customer of a service that's in its earlier stages, they're probably going to be more responsive to you, right? They're a little bit more hungry for customers and retaining those, and that over time, that's going to shift, right? Hopefully they'll be successful and they'll get more customers, and maybe you will be demoted a little bit in terms of your voice, but you need to go into that with eyes wide open and figure out what stage is this group in, and should we ask for more early or not, based on really our pecking order as a customer. Thankfully, in our case, Filestack has been responsive. It's not just resolving the few issues that we've experienced the last several years, but adding capabilities that we needed. Things like improving their PDF viewer in the past and adding virus scanning. These were things that we participated in requesting, and they were able to deliver on. But you do have to be empathetic and realistic, right? Just like you have to make some difficult decisions each day about what you're going to prioritize and what you're not, based on the broader needs of your customer base, your partners, your vendor partners, are likely going to be making similarly difficult decisions. And sometimes, just asking for something may not go far enough. Sometimes we have offered to pay for additional services, maybe not just in terms of regular subscription services, but actually offering to contribute a lump sum payment, to the vendor to bring on extra capacity to add something and support something that we and likely other customers would need. But really have to be just empathetic in the end around the fact that they're running a business, they're running a product, and have to gauge at the outset, where are we joining in this company's life cycle, and can they, address needs that we have as time goes on. And I can think of one particular case unrelated to Filestack, had to do with integrations. We were talking to 2 or 3 different companies about a particular integration service, and we shied away from one and gravitated towards another because one was a little leery of really offering any sort of substantive options for new work that we would need them to do in terms of integrations, and the other was very clear in terms of how much it would cost, what the lead time would be, and what to expect in terms of having new needs addressed. And then, of course, when you think about scaling with a partner, have to just understand, is this a stable service or not? Is it developed enough or not, right? Maybe the marketing site has all the bullet points we're looking for, but the question is this really, as we kick the tires on the trial or even get started in integration, is this a product that is stable enough for us to really rely on? And as we scale and our user base grows, do we have confidence that this service and this company is going to be able to scale with us? And then the last thing I'll say here is really, their success is your success. Too many times I've seen folks I've worked with in the past, try to negotiate really, really hard with vendors to try to talk down prices to the lowest, possible price point. And again, I think that comes from a perspective of accounting rather than economics. And you really want to treat your vendor partners as partners, right? Don't just treat them as simply as a vendor. Really make sure that they are getting paid, their fair share of the service they provide. They're already facing competitive pressures from probably similar services out there. Don't drip feed them. You really want to make sure that your partners feel like partners, that you pay them like partners, that they feel like partners. Really help them thrive, because if they thrive, you'll thrive as well. And that's it. That is my my canned talk. I think we've got some Q&A maybe.
Hello? Oh, there.
Yep, we can hear you now.
Yeah, we do have some Q&A here for you, Ian. Thank you for the presentation. So the first question is, are there any security considerations I should be aware of when using third-party file uploaders for LMS?
Yeah, so first, it's kind of going back to the why again, and understanding your business and what are our security requirements first, right? What do our customers require, right? In the education world, there are national, state, and district laws around what we can do with student information or teacher information, right? That's very sensitive. And that leads us to say, okay, based on our needs for our customers or just our assessment of security needs, what do we then require of our business partners? So I think you do need to think about, what are the things that are on a checklist for us, and then making sure that those items are addressed, in the on the marketing sites or in the onboarding material for these partners, or that at least are able to get into a conversation with them to talk about how they address, particular laws or particular needs in the industry.
All right, thank you very much, Ian. The next question is, are there any common pitfalls to avoid when using third-party file uploaders for LMS? So,
Pitfalls, sure, yeah. I can think of one. I might think of two here, but three. But at least the first thing that comes to mind actually has less to do with the service providers and more to do, at least in our case, with the district networks, right? So there are laws and really good guidelines and principles around how to protect students from really inappropriate content, for kids at the district level. So basically what they do is they turn off everything on the web, and then they start to add to allow lists things like different protocols and different domains. And one of the reasons we switched off of a former video host was they were also hosting content for some popular magazines that were not, kid appropriate, and so districts would refuse to allow list this particular vendor. And so in our world, you have to be very focused on deliverability of things through, web proxies or sometimes email servers. And we have to provide a lot of guidance to our districts as they're getting onboarded. Here's the list of 24 domains that need to be allow listed for our service to work. A lot of those are really just subdomains under our top level domain, but we have this checklist. Our onboarding team goes through that with them, and then as well, we created some JavaScript right throughout our site that basically signals to the user, hey, you don't have access to Filestack CDN or something like that. And we tell them, like, you need to go ask your administrator to please, add this domain to your allow list that you can access, our site. So that's been our biggest challenge, is just working with the districts and making sure their networks are set up appropriately.
All right, thank you for your insights, Ian. So we have one more question left.
Mm-hmm.
So earlier you mentioned that we scale together with our partners, the third-party applications or services. So how do these third-party file uploaders increase scalability, particularly for LMS for you?
Sure. So the biggest for us is there are seasons where we do a lot of authoring. We're creating a lot of material, and obviously during the school season, a lot of consumption. And sometimes both of those are happening at the exact same time. And so being able to rely on Filestack, in particular, to be able to handle the load of all of the uploads, all of the transformations, all the processing of the assets, the generation of the HTML5 previews, and then the distribution to the content delivery network, and then of course the content delivery network to the end users, provides a tremendous asset to us. And I would say, other than what you might expect in terms of a minor glitch, either in Filestack or in a third-party CDN that they leverage, that happens, once every 3 years or something like that. We haven't had to worry about it at all, right? We just integrate and trust and have seen that it's not just stable, but it scales so well that we have not had to worry about the scale of our asset management like we would have if we were managing it all ourselves.
Great. Thank you for sharing that, Ian. Would you like to add anything else? That's it for the questions.
No, nothing else to add.
All right.
Thanks
Thank
everyone
you
for your
very
time.
much, Ian.